Welcome to Mentality Meets. My name is Peter Larkum and I created Mentality, a 1-hour online training tool to basically begin to explore what mental health is. Not mental health illnesses, mental health. What's the difference between good days and bad days? And when bad days are happening more frequently, what do I need to do to look after myself and where do I get help and support? Mentality Meets is all about meeting people and talking with people who have lived experience of mental health illnesses, because I believe that they have some tools, because they're currently in a place of recovery and they are looking after or have learned how to look after their mental health better. And I think for the likes of you and I in this COVID-19 situation, we are experiencing our mental health more, where we know that something isn't quite right, but we don't quite know what. And so when good days become bad, but then when bad days don't become good again, where do we get the help? Where do we get the support? And how do we begin to look out for one another better? So I hope you enjoy Mentality Meets. Today we're with Henry Johnstone, and we're going to be talking about mental health and mental health awareness. And why is it a good thing? And why is it a bad thing? And who knows where this conversation is going to go. But there are people queuing up, so we should probably start letting people in. I hope you enjoy Mentality Meets. Right, so here we are at 11 o'clock. Guys, thanks very much for joining us. As more people join in, I'll be admitting them through as we go. But Henry, we have you today, and I would love you just to take a moment and just give us a little bit of an introduction as to who you are and your journey, which has brought you to today.
So whenever anyone asks me that question, I always take the stance of I'll tell you who I believe I am, and then I'll tell you what I do. So I believe that I am a beautiful man inside, maybe not outside. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. I'm loving, loyal, compassionate, deeply sensitive, and very, very handsome. What I do is I'm a rapid change therapist, which is a little bit like hypnosis, but sort of far more based in NLP and like therapeutic practices. Some of the people in the room here today have experienced what I do. I'm also a life coach. I'm the only life coach that you will meet who hates every single other life coach on the planet and the industry as a whole. So if you ever want to hear me rant about that, please send me a message. Adrian knows exactly what I'm talking about. I'm a metal worker. I run metalwork retreats for people to come and learn how to vocalize their emotions outside of, words and common ways. And I'm a podcaster, and I am father to a child.
Ah, a four-legged child.
Four-legged. He's beautiful. He's so talented. He's so advanced for his age.
Amazing.
And that's me, I think.
So before lockdown, what did you do apart from life coaching? Was there anything else, or was life coaching your kind of day-to-day?
Yeah, it was my day. It was my day-to-day, and I was growing increasingly frustrated with it as a practice, increasingly frustrated with the industry as a whole. I was finding far more joy in running my metalwork retreats, which were going down really, really well. Made some incredible contacts with how to move those forward to really empower the youth of Britain across many, many different sectors, to offer them something which simply just isn't available to them at the present. I was getting ready to speak in schools around my own. I also have, a mental health journey of my own since I was 11. I had my first mental breakdown when I was 11, and sort of my life kind of addiction. I'm in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. Really lovely, colourful stuff. All that stuff happened. And, so whenever I speak about mental health, it comes from a place of experience and sort of this profound sense of empathy to anyone who's going through it at whatever level they are going through it.
Goodness gracious. I mean, what I kind of really kind of got my interest as I was looking through different speakers collectives, speakers, is youth work. So I'm a youth worker by trade, so I kind of have been supporting young people and have seen and supported the young people, the maybe not to the same extreme that you have experienced, but young people who are trying to find out who they are while experiencing mental health illnesses and the complexity that brings. And so I just find it fascinating. So I'm really excited about what we're going to be talking about today. I have no idea what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, it's interesting. I just wanted to pick up on that. It's really interesting that you say that, because it's almost like if a kid breaks their leg, then they know that their leg's broken and that they have to readjust how their body is.
Mm.
When they have a mental health difficulty, it's far harder to negotiate their understanding of self when they can't see or have something tangible to relate it to.
Yes.
And it's sort of placing a kid in a world where we kind of demand they know what they want to do at the age of 11. Who knows what the hell they want to do? I don't even know what the hell I want to do even now. It's just too much pressure. And what we're missing is this widened understanding and nurturing environment where we allow kids to simply be as they are and experience themselves as they are, and not trying to put them into boxes or funnel them so we can sort of feel a bit settled that we fixed them and it's okay now.
Totally. And I suppose kind of in the context of today, I mean, we've got kind of 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and I really want to be able to dig into your passions and what you are interested in. And so, before we start, sorry, let's just go for the health warning, which we do every single time. We have no personal history about you, so we don't know what your mental health journey is. We don't know whether you are struggling right now, whether you've been struggling in the past. We don't know anything about you. And so as we talk about mental health and the stuff that we're going to cover today, if you feel like it's a little bit more personal, a little bit more vulnerable than you're expecting, can you let me know on the chat? You can do a private chat to me, so as I can just be aware of that. I can't do anything necessarily, but at least I know that you're able to say, hey, this is a little bit more personal, and you can sign out, you can log out, you can leave the room. That's totally fine. The other thing that we want to just highlight is the Hub of Hope. Now, the Hub of Hope is an amazing resource, because you go onto hubofhope.org and you can type in your postcode and it will highlight all of the mental health support in your local area. Now, this is amazing. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and they said that they've had friends from Somerset get in contact with them and say, I don't quite know why I'm talking to you, but I don't know what to do at the moment. And she said because of these sessions, she's encouraged them to look on Hub of Hope and to find the support in the local area. So it is amazing that you can do that anywhere in the country, put in a postcode and find the mental health support that's around you. Also, of course, you have access to the Samaritans on 116123, or Shout. Now, Shout is the first UK 24/7 text service available. So if you find that you need someone to talk to, or that you're really struggling with your mental health, you can text Shout to 85258. And what that will do is that will send a message to them, and then somebody will get back in contact with you and offer you some help and support. So sorry, Henry, just wanted to cover all that. And everything else. Now, everyone, if you haven't already found your chat bar at the bottom of the page, please do so, because it's a great way to stay engaged with the conversation as it moves. And if you want to ask any questions, or if you want to engage in any way, the chat bar is the best way to do it, because we won't be able to hear you verbally in this process. So, Henry, what is it that you would like to talk to us about today?
Okay, so I have quite a big problem with the way mental health awareness is and where it's been going, and that is that there seems to be, it's just a bit of a, we were talking about how a different way to say this is, an SHIT show. That's what it is. It's a massive shit show, essentially. And it's almost like there's a hierarchy of trauma. And depending on where you sit on that hierarchy, if you're higher up, so if you have experienced more, if you have been more messed up, if you have had more diagnoses, if you have been sectioned, if you have been hospitalized, or like that kind of seems to place you in a place of authority. But what that does is that it creates this, it's like this kind of celebrity status of pain and trauma. And what that does is it devalues everyone else's experience who is below that. So we concentrate on mental illness. We concentrate on the very worst of a mental illness. It makes it really fashionable. It kind of glamorizes a little bit. Everyone's getting the wrong message about mental health, which is what it is. We're not we're not doing this because we want people to know about mental illness. We're doing this because we want them to respond and take care of their mental health. So that means, like, in my mind, is to kind of remove that glamorized side of it. And like, I get it. We're not sharing our experiences to be glamorized. We don't want to become, trauma celebrities, but it's the way the wider population approaches us and, creates content around what we do. So there's a huge misalignment going on, and I see it every time. Like on LinkedIn, I've experienced more of this trauma hierarchy, more of this courage porn on LinkedIn of all places than I have on any other, social media channel. But it is evident everywhere else. And, I've spoken to so many young guys, and they've been speaking about their mental health, and they go, well, I'm just being pathetic. I'm just being silly. Like, I haven't been hospitalized because I've slipped my wrist. I'm like, not on my watch. Anyone ever feel that their feelings are not warranted, that they are pathetic, that they are silly because they are having a bad day? That is mental health. It is our responsibility to look after them and make resources available to them so they know that their feelings are valued, that their feelings are not devalued based on what they think the boxes they have to fit into to be able to speak fluently about how they're feeling. Like, it's BS. It is complete BS, and it's not on my watch. No.
Okay, so I'm feeling it. I love it because you're so right that it's so easy to glamorize mental health illness and to see people who have had amazing recovery stories, but then kind of putting them up on a pedestal and saying, oh, in that case, kind of, you're the person that we need to look to, and you're the person who's got the answers. And I suppose kind of what I'm hearing is that actually we need to be much more aware of our individual mental health and the good days that we have and the bad days that we have, and be able to share that even in its minuscule state. Is that right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like, I mean, what I understand from what you said is that everyone can share. That's it. Not everyone should, because should is, we want to ban the word should because it's loaded with expectation, and it's like when we say the word should, we're literally acting from someone else's expectations. It's horrible word. So we can share, and we do share. So what we can do, like, here's something. When one person gets 1 million trillion hits for posting about, their mental illness, then they invite someone who has literally no followers. They invite Denise, who has 3 children and finds it hard to get out of bed in the morning, to speak. And they give, when you go to an AA meeting, the most important person in that room is the person who has just walked through the door. You can have hundreds of years of combined sobriety and wisdom, but the most important person to walk in that room is the person who has literally their 24 hours. That's the experience. It's the people who feel. If you feel, then you have an experience, then you are as much of as an authority than anybody else. And we encourage people to talk, just talk about it, and I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I just find myself getting increasingly frustrated.
And I think what I'm noticing, so I find it interesting in the whole context of Mentality Meets, and that I'm speaking with the likes of you from Speakers Collective and other speakers who have lived experience of mental health illnesses, who have this journey. And what I'm beginning to realise, and I mean, I've been a mental health trainer for 10 years plus. I've been in this world for a long time. But I am much more aware now about my everyday mental health journey. And I have to acknowledge when I have a bad day, so as I pray that I don't have more than one in a row. So as I begin to try and think, okay, how can I make tomorrow a better day? How can I begin to put things in place? And like you say, excuse me, is how do we begin to enable people who are experiencing their mental health more than they have before to kind of go, you know what, we are in a weird world at the moment. It's okay to feel like this. But also, how do we begin to talk about it so as people feel like they can, like you say, because it's actually, I just had a really rubbish day yesterday. And then how is it? So the thing that gets me, sorry, I'm going off on one now, is all the breathing exercises that you need to do and all the top tips of mindfulness and all the top tips of X, Y, and Z, which is good for our mental health, but it doesn't fully enable me as a person to try and understand where these feelings are coming from in the first place. And how do I begin to figure that stuff out, as well as breathe well and take more attention as I go for a walk. So I just want to highlight on some of the chats, because there's some great chat coming through. So Steve's asking, do you feel that this is because social media is encouraging people to become like a brand?
Absolutely.
Okay. Nice answer. And then interesting point of discussion from Danny, who says, I find myself flipping between mental health, mental fitness, positive mental health. And I personally like the saying health, but it feels like if you don't add the mental part, people will get confused with what you're talking about.
So true, isn't it? It's like, but as we introduce mental wellness into the vernacular, it's still going through that process where it needs to be prefixed so everyone knows what the F we're talking about. Because otherwise they're like, no, health is just physical. It's like, but that's where we're getting to, right? That's where every step that we're making is getting to, where the word health encompasses both. And one of them isn't really big and scary, which I'm afraid to say, like when we talk about mental illness and mental health, a lot of people, because of what's going on, their first thought is, oh my God, do I have mental health? And then they think of all the worst trauma porn that they've ever seen, which is all they see, and that's not where we want them to go. We want them to be like, I feel this. I want to talk to someone about this. And then we talk, I've personally, for me, talking about it, about how I feel, not having someone try to fix me, and that simple gift of being listened to and being seen. Being seen is just this wonderful gift that we can give to anybody. But
and I think the amazing part about that is, to help someone be seen is you have to step into their world. And I found this the other day. I was out on a walk with the kids, and there was a lady who had stopped so as we could walk past. But as we walked past, I then stopped and said, hey, thanks so much, how are you? And she was like, you're the first person who's talked to me. And I was like, really? And it was like, by stopping and entering into her world, she was just that person who had suddenly been seen, And I think we often miss that. We often want other people to kind of interject into our lives, but we forget that actually we have a real gift, an ability to see other people and to speak to them.
Yeah, it's reaching in. Like there's this thing of like where we say to people who are struggling with their mental health, like reach out. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in the deep, dark depths of the absence of depression, the last thing I want to do is pick up the phone and bloody talk to anybody. So it's the people who think, I know Henry, I kind of feel that there's something not right here, and they reach in. They don't force me to talk about it. It is totally till my decision if I do talk about it. But knowing that we're not alone, that's not a medication. And I'm a big believer in medication, by the way. But it's that simple human to human contact, which, and we're actually seeing now with coronavirus, funnily enough, that people are reaching in a lot more.
Yeah.
So we have that capacity. We haven't lost it. We just got to rediscovering that nurturing, giving a toss about people.
Yeah. So other things are going here about health encompasses us as a whole mind and body and mind. And Steve's going to put and spirit too. And now spirit is one of the things that I find people really struggle with, and kind of body, mind and spirit. And it's like, actually, what is spirit and what is spirituality? And the most common reaction I get when I start talking about spirituality is, are we talking about religion? It's like, oh, no. But your spirituality is the internal belief system that governs the way we live our lives. And until we begin to realize that there is this part of us, and sometimes the way that we process information within our spirituality might be a little bit off kilter.
Mm.
We need to begin to understand that and process that, so as we can begin to explore. So if I can, and it's such a deep conversation that we can't do it in 2.5 minutes. But I think it's so important, especially when we start talking about our resilience and where our resilience comes from, and about being who we are, not kind of what we do. And most of our conversations are, so what do you do? But obviously now we don't do. But it is a question of, well, who are you, and are you happy with the person you are in the environment that you're in? And oh man, it's such a deeper conversation.
The most amazing. I know that we've got like the most amazing question that you can ask. I learned this when I trained as a psychotherapist. Is if you really want to find out who someone is, then ask them, "Who are you?" But you keep on asking them. And it just peels back the layers, and you will get to, and they will get to, the center of themselves, which is always accompanied by this most gorgeous moment of tears and self-love and just adoration for who they actually know that they are. And it could be just words. It could be, I am love. You know, I am joy. I just want to help this person be this in their lives. And why? So who are you? It's like, I am. You know, it's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. But I actually love the way you described spirituality there, because it is a word which people don't really get a big idea over. My own definition is, my spirituality is my openness to always search for what is more, for the magic.
And I just want to highlight
disbelief.
I just want to highlight on Andy Reeves' post. So thanks for this, Andy, because it says, when it comes to understanding where this all comes from and why do I feel like this, we've got to understand that we are then entering into the territory where clinical qualification needs to step in. And I think that's so important, because you're right. Sometimes, if we're not careful, with every goodwill we have, we can suddenly enter into conversations that we just don't have the skills to actually go there.
Well, I think that's where sort of the mental health first aid training comes in really useful, because you're able to recognize those boundary crosses. You can act with appropriateness. We don't go in with any sort of thoughts of, I'm going to fix this person, I'm on a white horse. You're like, I'm entering into a mental health conversation. If this person experiences some distress, then I know exactly what to do. And that's why I think mental health first aid needs to be just blanket. Everyone needs to know it, so that whenever these conversations happen, it's not going to be trauma isn't going to be created. It's simply going to be put further onto a ladder. So everyone has a responsibility to have their own support network to which they can refer.
Yes.
You know, a connected community.
No, totally. And I'm finding that I'm kind of listening in, trying to read at the same time, and I'm like, I can't do both. I'm a man. I can only do one thing at once. Just bear with me. But Andy Bishop just put, the best question ever is, who are you? Which are every man gang. So Andy, welcome to the conversation. I've been following you on LinkedIn for a long time. And what I'm loving about COVID-19 is that I am meeting more of my LinkedIn connections than ever before. And Andy, you're one that I have constantly had on my radar to collect. And Andy runs Man Gang, and Henry, you do men sessions as well. And he says,
me and Andy are long-time bromancers.
Ah, brilliant. So the same question always depends on the people in the room and the first person who answers. And I find that fascinating, because as soon as I've had loads of conversations where as soon as one person actually stops and says, you know what, and is honest and real and raw, it gives everyone else permission. Oh, we can talk about this, and then it begins to cascade around the room. Man Gang from Steve, question mark. Andy Bishop, can you just put a little kind of website or a little bit of blurb on the chat about Man Gang, so as we can just pick up on that. So Andy Weave also says, have to say I'm speaking as mental health JFA instructor, mental health something first aid instructor. I think it might just be mental health first aid instructor since 2014, which does help recognize when entering those signposting territories. And Andy, I totally get that. So I've been doing mental health training for a long time too. And it's a fantastic tool to help people spot those signs and symptoms and know when that boundary has been crossed. So gosh, it's 11:25 already, Henry. So we're entering into final thoughts. So can you give us any final thoughts, any wrap up things to kind of pull this all together?
No pressure, eh?
How do we begin to raise mental health as a positive conversation for everyone, so as we don't always focus in on mental illness?
Okay, so there's two things that popped into my head. These may be completely wrong. I don't know, and I frankly don't care, because the things that I'm thinking of is, if you are on a position where you have a lot of influence, around, and you're promoting your message, then invite someone who, for all intents and purposes, on that channel has no influence, and say, actually, I know this, but they're the most important person here. When someone starts to talk in a way about mental illness or mental health, just correct them. Say, oh, so like what you're actually talking about is health. It's health, right? Because that's the way I've found the most effective spreading is education, boots on ground level. It's the same with correcting people over, stigma. It's like, oh, so he's got split personality disorder. I'm like, whoa, what? Okay, let's back that up now and change the way you're speaking about that. And that's just two things. And Huxley, have you got any suggestions? No? Okay. He'll get back to us on that.
Brilliant. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have 4 minutes left. Are there any questions or anything that you want to just kind of bang out, or any kind of perspective on this conversation?
Just quickly, I'm just going to pop my metalwork retreat link in there so people can see.
Nice, I like it. It's almost like you had that pre-planned. That was
weird. God,
ready to go straight on. And seeing as we're publicising, I'm going to talk about mentality, because mentality is a good thing. Because mentality is that base knowledge. So mentality doesn't talk about mental health illnesses, but it does talk about our mental health. And basically, in its simplest form, is good days and bad days, and life. But actually, when we start to have more bad days than good, where do we get help and support? Who can we reach out to? And so do take a look. So I'm doing it now. So www.mentality.work is a website, and it is available for everybody. So do take a look at it. But also just again, big shout out to Hub of Hope. And the resource that's available. And also, don't forget Speakers Collective. So you, as a Speakers Collective speaker, there's a big group of people who are able to talk about their lived experience and the journey that they're on. And the thing is, I think what we've got to then begin to realise as we move out of this situation, when we move out of it, who knows? But on the other side of this, I think we're going to be coming across more and more people who are beginning to get it. And my biggest fear is that we may also then come across more and more people who think they know the answer, because that's what worked for them. And the difficulty that we've got to come back to is that every single one of us has a different journey and a different perspective. And when we're talking about mental health, one size does not fit all. It cannot fit all, because everything else is going on as well. And Henry, any final thoughts? I want you to finish this off rather than me.
No, just I love you all, and be kind to yourself and be super loving to yourself. And I love you. And there you go.
In that case, ladies and gentlemen, we are at 11:28 and our time together with Mentality Meets is over. So Henry, thank you so much for your time. If you need to sign off, now is your opportunity to do so. So take care. God bless, and bye-bye now.